Not everyone is going to understand what makes you tick, and not a lot of people are going to care enough to try. It sucks, right? Hello, welcome. We're going to be talking about why it's important to stop trying to make everyone understand you and stop caring if people misunderstand you. It's hard because I think it goes against our instincts a bit. You want people to understand you because you want to be part of like the in-group. This is how you can stop trying to get people to understand you. You need to just live your truth. Here we go. It's important to remember that you are the only one who cares what goes on in your head. I think that came out harsher than I meant it. You are also the only one who knows what's going on in your head. If you struggle to be articulate like me, this can be very hard because you know what's happening in your head, but you don't know how to say it and you don't know how to make someone else understand. I spend a lot of time by myself and I enjoy spending time by myself and I get a lot out of it. And I get my energy from that. Like, I feel very peaceful and very calm when I'm by myself, whereas I know for extroverts, they prefer being with people because they get their energy from other people. But I spend a lot of time by myself. As a consequence of this, I have quite a rich inner world. That means that a lot of the things that matter to me are going on in my head or on an emotional level. So it makes it difficult to articulate what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, because if you're talking to someone who's not an introvert, and a lot of people I know are extroverts, and it can be very hard to make them understand how deeply something is affecting you because they don't have that same experience. And that obviously goes for everything. Everyone experiences life differently and we all have so many things that have happened. You're never going to be able to get people to understand everything. If we take an example, right? Earlier my family put on Take That, which is this British band. They are amazing and I love their music, but for me it's far too emotional. It makes me want to cry in a bad way. You know, because sometimes art, music, whatever it is, it will affect you and you'll tear up. But there are other times where it's like, oh no, like this is too much emotion, I don't want to have to deal with this. And that's what I was feeling with the Take That music. But how do I tell that to my family? Like, do you get what I mean? There's something happening there, there's a reaction in me that I can't express, but I know that music is not the right thing I need to be listening to right now because it's making me... See, sad isn't even the right word. I don't even know what the right word would be. That's just a tiny example. But to me, music and TV shows, films, these things aren't just entertainment for me. They definitely are that, but they're not. It's something about like I'm investing my soul into it. If I come back to the same films or the same TV shows, it's because I'm connecting with it on a deeper level than just, oh, this show is funny, or oh, this song sounds good, like I enjoy listening to this song. There's something more to it. And I'm struggling to even describe what I mean to you. I can't make people understand because I can't even express it. You are the only person who understands you. You may not be able to express it to someone else and be like, this is the reason I care so much about this thing, or I feel this way, or I feel so strongly about this injustice, or whatever. You may not be able to get that across to someone else, but you will understand it. And that needs to be enough, which leads us nicely onto the next point, which is stop looking for validation from other people. It's never gonna happen. You need to validate yourself. Again, this is just me sort of pseudo yelling at you things that I need to be hearing this evening when I'm really struggling because I just feel very alone with how I'm feeling. You need to stop caring so much about what other people think of you and stop trying to make other people understand you, and instead use that energy to validate yourself and to be like, they may not understand, but I know I feel like this because of this, or I have no idea why I feel like this, but I know that I do, and that's okay, and I'm gonna acknowledge that to myself, even if there's no one else around to acknowledge that for me and be like, I understand, you know, that feeling of being seen, where you say something to someone, you share something, whether it's something personal, like really you kind of grapple with, do I need to share it with them, or something just like, oh, I really like this, TV show. When you share that with someone and you feel seen and they respond like, oh yeah, or thank you for telling me, do you know what, like that feeling is so wonderful. But you need to remember you can't always rely on other people to give you that feeling and to validate you. And that's, I guess, the way I've just said it is kind of like the fear-based thing. You can't rely on other people. But I mean, you can always rely on yourself. You always have you. Be your own best friend here. You can validate yourself and be like, it's okay. Those people, they're not you. They don't get it, but you get it. And that's enough. You just need to sit with that and be like, I don't need to over-explain myself to anyone. I know why I am the way I am. I know why I act like this, even if people don't understand. I know why I care so much about that. I know why I get worked up about this thing and other people think I'm weird for doing it. I know why. I don't need them to validate me. I know why I do it. I don't need to make them understand. So how do you go about validating yourself? I mean, you can just, as I say, witness whatever it is that you're feeling and that you're wishing that other people understood and be like, well, I understand. It's gonna sound stupid, but you need to try this. You also need to just celebrate yourself, love yourself. Again, those are very big things, and I think I make whole other videos on them, but just spend more time alone if you can. It doesn't have to be about big things. Again, if we're talking about the little things, celebrate the little things. What did you do today that you didn't do yesterday? Oh, you had a shower today, you didn't do that yesterday because you were feeling so sad. Do you know what I mean? Oh, you ate well today, you had some vegetables. Good for you. Like, you're probably already subconsciously validating yourself for those small things. Maybe with like your partner or your sister or your best friend, you might be like, hey, guess what? Like, I'm really proud of myself today. I finished this book or this piece of work. Just something small that you wouldn't, no one would buy you a card for, you know? But they'll be like, oh yes, well done. But you need to get used to doing that for yourself. Like, oh, I did it. It's great if you have people to share all this stuff with, but you also have to get used to and be okay with just being like, oh, I did it. I did it for me, and that's all that matters. I think another way that you can get into this, like validating yourself and not needing to make other people understand you, is to get creative. Creativity is a way of expressing your soul, basically, and you're not doing it to show anyone else necessarily. You're just doing it because you feel like you have to. Like, that creative drive that you have is like, I need to do this, whether it's you love painting or you love writing. It's the stuff that you're not creating it with an audience in mind. You're just like, I love this thing, I want to draw it. I love this idea of this poem, I'm going to write it. And then afterwards you may start thinking about, oh, shall I show it to someone? But in the moment, you're just thinking about the project itself and you're so excited about it. So I think if you can find what fulfills you creatively, that can go a really long way to starting to learn how to validate yourself and to stop trying to make everyone understand you, because it's just not going to happen. They're not going to, but you can understand yourself. Like, for example, I've started this YouTube channel and I am loving it, but I've not told anyone. Literally no one in my life knows that I've started this. And I was thinking about why that is. It's like, I'm not embarrassed. I'm proud of, like, it feels really nice to have this creative outlet that instantly allows you to share what you've created with other people, because for so long, like, I love writing, I love painting, and I'm loving like making something and then sharing it with the world in a way that you can't really do. Like, I'll write a poem or write a story, I just won't feel like I'm able to share it straight away, whereas with videos I'm like, oh, I can create something and then I can share it and see what people think. It's been such an amazing experience. So far I've loved it, but I've not told anyone that I know. It's tied in with the fact that I wouldn't be able to explain properly to anyone why I've done it. Like, I can instantly think of the questions that they would ask me if I said I've started a YouTube channel. They might be like, why? Or what do you talk about? Making people understand. Like, I don't know how to communicate to them that this is something that I have really loved doing. I think people wouldn't get it. They're like, what? Why would you waste your time doing that? Or why is that interesting or fulfilling? Or why do you have anything important to say? Maybe this is the worst case scenario. These are just the negative voices in my head that are trying to put me down. I don't know. I ultimately hope that I'm able to help people and that we can like create a nice space to talk about these bigger issues. Alongside the idea of not looking for validation from other people, I would say stop oversharing. Stop over-explaining yourself. This is again an attempt to try and make people understand you, right? Just stop. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't owe anyone anything. You need to walk around like you are a gift. And you are. That sounds really pretentious, but basically, you don't need to over-explain yourself. If you have a reason why all of a sudden you can't make that thing you arranged to do with your friend, of course, tell them. But you don't need to go into your whole life story. Again, if people are gonna understand, they'll get it. And if they're not, they won't. You don't need to spend your time and your energy giving someone an explanation for something. It's just another way, a sneaky way that you're trying to get the world to understand you. Sometimes the world is determined to not understand you, and you've got to be okay with that as well. It's a difficult thing to accept that some people are determined to misunderstand you, but you need to accept that that's a reality. Either strangers, especially strangers, but also people you know, they are not interested. There will be people like that in your life who unfortunately don't have any, whether it's a deliberate, right? They really don't care, they don't want to hear it, they have no intention of understanding what makes you tick. They have a very rigid way of thinking, or they have a very particular idea of you and they're just not going to accept something that goes outside of that. They're deliberately misunderstanding you. There's nothing you can do about that. But even on other levels, I mean, we kind of touched on this at the beginning, if people are unintentionally misunderstanding you, it's because they probably don't have they're not on the same wavelength as you. So if I try and say to someone who doesn't get it, like I had this really intense spiritual, emotional experience that like shook me to my core, and it like really redefined what I see the world as, or how I experience things, people are gonna be like, oh, certain people be like, cool, but they're not gonna get it. Right? It's like trying to explain think of whatever your favorite film is if you like films. If you don't like films, your favorite TV show, your favorite video game, your favorite thing, your favorite like media thing to consume. Try thinking about explaining that to like someone who doesn't get it. So try explaining it to like your grandparents, and they'll be like, what? And they'll have like no context for what you're talking about. There's no way that they can understand. Like me trying to explain to my granny about Doctor Strange, for instance. She would be like, first of all, what is the MCU? Oh, isn't that the guy who played... Actually, she probably wouldn't recognise him, but you know, there's just so much there. You're like, oh, it's time travel, but it's also this, but it's like different dimensions. Like, she wouldn't even understand the parts of it that could be real, let alone the parts of it that are, and so much of it is, like fantasy. That helps me when I think about trying to make people understand. Sometimes they're not deliberately misunderstanding you, they just have no idea, like no context for what you think about, what you think is important, how deeply you feel things. So they can't understand you on that deeper level. You can explain to them, oh, I went to see Doctor Strange at the cinema today. It was a really great film, blah, blah, blah. You can tell them the story, you could tell them the actors, you can tell them, oh, the costumes, or, you know, the colours and the different like transitions and the storytelling. You can say all of it and basically give them the story. They still won't get it. You can sit them down and watch the film with them, and they still might come out and be like, what? Like, what? Whereas you have this connection to it that you're like, that's amazing. Do you know, I'm just using it as an example. Doctor Strange is a great film. I watched it at a time in my life where everything was very transitional, and it was a really interesting film to watch at that point in my life, so that's what came up. Not everyone is gonna understand what makes you tick. Not everyone is going to understand why you care about some things. Not everyone is going to understand why you get angry about other things. Not everyone is going to understand you. And not a lot of people are going to care enough to try. So, it sucks, right? But the thing you can do is try and build your security within yourself. And then you can be like, I know why I am the way I am. And I don't need to explain myself to anyone. And I don't need anyone's validation, and it doesn't matter if people don't understand me. I know why I do the things I do. I know what I care about. There is nothing wrong with you just because other people don't understand. So stop trying to make people understand you. Let that go. It's not gonna happen, and the sooner you let it go, the sooner you can start putting all of that energy into the things you actually care about. I hope this video has inspired you, and maybe some of this has resonated with you. Please let me know in the comments down below, because I would love to have a discussion about this. It is a very big topic. Thank you so much for watching. God bless, and I will see you in the next one.